Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Foliage. In today's video we are going to be talking about this absolutely beautiful philodendron called as the Philodendron Brandtianum. Now I was so much in love with this plant that I have been looking out for this plant for a very long time, but it was quite expensive. It was almost in 4 digits. Back in 2020, 2021, I couldn't even think of buying it because it was quite expensive. Apart from that, it was quite rare. But today this plant is more available and more affordable. It is being sold in 3 digits. I've even seen people selling this plant for 500, 400 rupees as well. So I was in complete love with this plant and I wanted to buy it. It was on my wish list from a very long time, and finally I happened to get this plant. This plant has this beautiful heart-shaped leaves with this beautiful silver variegation on it, just like how our skin dapses have. It's very similar to that. Now I had recently got this plant, so it's a little bit damaged in the transit, but it's absolutely okay. It will start to do quite well. In fact, before getting this plant I had another one that I had purchased, but initially this plant was not doing quite well. The same thing, it had come during the summers and the environment was very dry. The plant was not able to kind of acclimate and get settled down in my environment. It started to drop all of the leaves and I was quite worried, and I thought I almost lost this plant, so I had got another one recently. But luckily as soon as it started to rain and the climate was getting a little better, the humidity level started to rise. That's when I started noticing that it started putting out some new leaves once again. So I'm quite excited that I have 2 of them now. Philodendron Brandtianum are a climbing plant, so you need to give them a pole. I don't have the materials right now. I have to create a pole very soon, so right now I've just given them some temporary stick, because if you're going to not use a pole or anything, they will start to trail downwards. It depends upon you however you want to grow, but ideally it is said that if you're going to use a pole, the leaves tend to grow much bigger. So the best thing what you can do is use a pole. You can go with any coir pole, moss pole, sphagnum moss pole, anything that you can get hold of. I will be making a coir rope pole. I have to still get some coir ropes. So let's start off with the care tips. Now guys, this plant is known for this beautiful variegation. Now ideally there are 2 forms in this. There is a wild form as well. I'll put up the image of the leaf of how the wild form looks like. It is a little bit more bigger compared to these. Even these, the leaves are quite small right now. They tend to grow, probably they'll be double the size once they start to grow. These are still in a juvenile form. Probably these were stem cuttings that were sold to me. So let's start off with the care tips, starting off with light. Now light is the most important thing because you can see this plant has this silver variegation on it. So in order to maintain this variegation, you have to offer a good amount of indirect bright light. Please do not offer direct sunlight, especially afternoon direct sunlight. The leaves will get burnt. Now this all depends upon your environment and climate. If you are from a place wherein you receive a good amount of mild morning direct sunlight, then you can offer it early morning direct sunlight before 10 a.m. But after that, please do not expose it to direct sunlight. You can grow it indoor, you can grow it outdoor. Indoor, if you have a windowsill wherein you receive a good amount of indirect bright light without the harsh sunlight falling onto the leaves, it's absolutely okay. Please do not keep this plant under the air conditioning vent or the heater, because that will again damage the plant. The beauty of this plant all depend upon of this beautiful variegation. As and when the plant starts to grow, the variegation becomes even more intense and beautiful. I'll put up the image of how the mature plant tends to look like. You'll absolutely fall in love with it. I'm just waiting. Probably it's going to take another 3 or 4 months for it to start getting acclimated and start to grow, because it has recently come in, so it's going to take a while for it. Luckily the environment is a little better, so it will start to pick up. Now talking about watering, these are not drought tolerant plants, so you have to ensure that you need to maintain a slight amount of moisture in the soil, but not soggy wet soil, otherwise that will lead to a root rot. So whenever you see around 1 to 2 inches of the upper layer of soil is dry, go ahead and do the watering until the water starts passing through the drain hole. Now talking about the soil mix, I have used the same soil mix, which is a mix of coco peat, garden soil, sand and perlite. They prefer a loose, porous and well draining soil mix. The coco peat is going to retain that slight amount of moisture. So again guys, coco peat depends upon your environment. If you are from a very humid environment, reduce the amount of coco peat, but if you are from a very dry environment, then increase the amount of coco peat. That is why I don't give you a exact proportion of my soil mix, because people watch my videos from different places which have a very different environment, so it all depends upon your environment and climate. Talking about propagation, it is very simple to propagate the philodendron. I'll put the link in the description below. It is the same process because they will start getting nodes as and when they start to grow with aerial roots. Like here you can see they are dried up, but this is how they start to grow. So they have these nodes. Couple of centimeters below the node, you have to do the cutting. Then either you can put it in leca or you can put it back into the soil. It's pretty simple to propagate philodendrons. You might have seen in my videos. Now talking about temperature and humidity, these are tropical plants, so you have to ensure you have a temperature that is between 15 degrees Celsius up to 34-35 degrees Celsius. The plant will do quite well. Humidity, average humidity is absolutely okay, but if you are from a very dry environment and you're growing it indoor, then you'll have to use a humidifier. If you're growing it outdoor, try to club a lot of plants together, do a light misting and keep a watch, because whenever you have a very dry environment, it is a little difficult to grow plants, especially foliage plants. Especially if you have a very dry and hot environment, that is where a lot of plants take the beating. Now talking about, is this plant toxic? Yes, philodendrons are toxic, so ensure that you're keeping this plant away from the reach of small children and pets, because if the leaves are ingested, it can be quite dangerous. So try to keep it at a safe distance. Other than that, it's a very easy to grow plant. Fertilizers, please don't use fertilizers during the winter season, because that's when the plant tends to slow down its growth. Summer is their growing period, so you can go with any organic solution or any organic fertilizer. You can use vermicompost, compost, or you can go with liquid fertilizers. I tend to use compost tea. You can even use seaweed solution as well, but ensure that you're diluting it in water before using it on your plant. And always ensure that you first moisten the soil before adding any kind of liquid fertilizer or any kind of fertilizer. Always moisten the soil. Do not use fertilizers on dry soil, because that will damage the plant. It can even burn the plant as well. So these are the care tips of this beautiful plant. You can readily find this plant online today. As I said, it's very cheap right now and it is readily available, probably due to the tissue culture, or because of people propagating this plant at a larger scale. So it's become very accessible. But as I said, back a few years ago, it was almost impossible to get hands on a plant. A lot of people did have the plant, but they were not propagating it. Probably they were waiting for the prices to rise even more higher. But luckily it came in our favor. The prices are starting to drop of every plant. In fact, the prices have started to drop at a very drastic rate. So it's becoming very accessible for a lot of plant collectors like us. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep propagating.